This is great. This is just an unbelievable night. First of all, it's such a privilege to be here tonight at such an incredible event for the Ouimet Fund. So in light of that, also thanks for getting us back together again, because this is going to be a lot of fun for the next 20 minutes or so. You've heard about all the stories and how incredible the Ouimet Fund has done through the years, what it's done for kids like Anna and all the way down the line. But I guess I want to start off and just say, Johnny, as you look at the video go by and you look at the past recipients of this incredible award, what does this night mean to you? Because I know you've been bestowed with a number of other honors in your career.
Well, it's nice to do something that actually can help others, isn't it? I'm real involved in American Indian Services out west, and we've just reached 50,000 scholarships in the last 36 years. So this is, to me, hits home big time, because I know what it can do to someone that needs a chance to go to college and get educated, especially kids that are scholars in the first place. And so, Anna, I wish you the absolute best in the future. And I know I've been aware of this night for many, many years, and I promised myself when I retired that I would be here. So I'm glad I came.
So are we. It's been announced already that there will be an award and endowment in the name of your father, Larry. And I know how much your dad has meant to you through the years, basically raising a champion. So what does it mean to you to have his name on that endowment?
Yeah, are you trying to make me cry already?
No, I know it's early.
Well, my dad was pretty amazing. He was a good player, mid-70s shooter, and like a lot of you guys, when you make your first birdie or two, you say, wow, I wish I would have started younger. Maybe I could have been a pro, right? Anybody been there? But he was a good player, but when I was 5 years old, he decided, well, I'm gonna try to make a champion, and set up an Army tarp from World War II, a surplus store, and a mat, and a big mirror, and Arnold Palmer's book, and we had Ben Hogan's book, and Sam Snead's book, and Byron Nelson's book, and I tried to copy the pictures of those guys, and I never went to the golf course for 2.5 years. All I knew was about it as a good shot made that sound that you want and that feel that you want, and it would hit that canvas right in the middle where the line was, and a 5-iron would hit here, and a 6 would hit there, 7 would hit there, and so and when I went to the course, I was already a pretty good player, and he got me to all the junior tournaments, and it was like a perfect upbringing, and he was so positive. He said kids thrive on praise, not false praise, but that a father's affirmation of success and greatness is really powerful. So you got to watch what you say when you're angry at your kids, or when you're disappointed in your kids. So he was really good at that, and it made a big difference in my life. It made me a strong person, and really a person that wasn't afraid of saying what he thought, and that transformed. Thank you.
And I know when we did the U.S. Open, we had the privilege of broadcasting the U.S. Open for 20 years. I started with Johnny in the booth in 2000 when a guy named Tiger Woods won by 15 shots. But every time we got in on the air on a Sunday, on Championship Sunday, it was Father's Day. And you could see how much the U.S. Open meant to Johnny, and you could see how much his father meant to him, who kind of cultivated this aura of a champion. He called you champ, and he basically paved the way for you to realize your dream and win the U.S. Open.
Yeah. It was always about the U.S. Open. A lot of you were intoxicated with the Masters, right? Especially this week. But growing up in that time period, the U.S. Open was by far the biggest championship. The Masters just kept getting better and better and bigger and bigger and bigger, and it was never meant to be our national championship or our most important tournament, but thanks to them, they've really done amazing things. But I was groomed playing Olympic Club. I was the first junior member to be a member at Olympic Club without my father being a member, because we really couldn't afford to pay those dues all the time. But I started winning a lot in the Bay Area, and they made me the first junior member at Olympic Club without my father being a member. And that program has gone on since that day, since then. And so Olympic Club has had two memberships for kids that are developing their talents in junior golf. So that was a great break for me to be able to have that opportunity to play that great course. Any of you guys play Olympic Club Lake Course or Ocean? Anybody here? Yeah, it's a great course, yeah.
Some uneven lies, which taught you how to play some golf too from those various stances. But
Yeah.
let's talk about the lead up to what was described here earlier by Dick, winning and getting to that high place finish as a 19-year-old in the U.S. Open. But since we're here at this Ouimet Fund night and all the great money raised for this great cause, you actually were a caddy starting at age 11 in the San Francisco area. Tell us about your caddy days before your U.S. Open days.
I started taking lessons at San Francisco Club from a guy named John Geertsen, and he was the pro there. And Tony Lima was the assistant pro. Some of you guys remember Tony. And when I was about 10, 11 years old, I asked the caddy master, Jack Lohman, I said, is there any way I could caddy? And he said, I don't know, you're awful small. You know, I was really small. When I graduated from 9th grade, I was 5'2", 104 pounds. Smallest kid in the class. And so he said, well, Mr. Ward's bag's about that big. He only has about 6 clubs. You can try that one. So I started doing that, and I branched on to other players, and caddied for Bing Crosby there, and Ed Lowry was in that group with, I'd play, you know, I was around Ken Venturi, Tony Lima, and Harvey Ward, and Mr. Lowry was very much part of their lives, and so all that all came together. And tonight's got, you know, quite a bit of that with Ed Lowry, and so it was a wonderful time. I wanted to caddy because I like to make my own money, not ask my dad for money, and it was a good way to make a few dollars, you know. And you know, those are some of the best years of my life, was to be able to caddy and then also work on my game. Yep.
So you gained some confidence from that 1966 U.S. Open, but tell us about, you know, early days on the tour, if you could, about those days before you were an established player and you were out on the road. I think it was 50 years ago this month that you got your PGA Tour car.
Yeah. I guess I didn't answer the question about the U.S. Open, did I? But
he never answered all of my questions on the air either, but we can.
Well, I signed up to turn pro, and I signed up to go to the qualifying tournament in Florida, and I'm in San Francisco now, and I really hadn't played much out of California. Only time I left California was for the U.S. Junior in '64 in Oregon, and they drove me up there, and I actually set a record with the lowest qualifying 36 holes, and then won the tournament, and that was a big turning point in my confidence. But when I went for my card, I remember getting about to Texas, and I was driving, and I couldn't believe how far I was across that state, and I was thinking, oh my gosh. It was the first time it occurred to me that, you know, if I didn't make the qualifying, I got to make the stupid drive all the way back to San Francisco. So that sort of motivated me there, and so I did make that qualifying school. But just a little side note, I rented a Buick Riviera in 1969, which was like the coolest car there was for a young executive type, even though I wasn't one, and drove that thing for 1 year, turned it in, and in 1 year I put 63,000 miles on it by myself, all over the United States, crisscrossing, and you know, it wasn't Google there, you young people, there wasn't, it was just a road map, AAA road map. That's it. So I grew up really fast out there on tour in a hurry, but I got in every tournament that first year. Every time I missed the cut, and in those days, if you made the cut, you could play the next week. So the weeks I didn't make the cut, I was able to qualify, and a lot of times it would be like 130 guys for 4 spots, but somehow I was able to get that experience of playing, and then the next year I had an exempt year, so from then on I was exempt for a lot of years.
And I know you've talked a lot about it through the years. I've had some incredible conversations with you about the '73 U.S. Open and the '63 on Sunday. So Give us the synopsis, the you know, the maybe the shorter version of how unbelievable that final round Sunday was, and what it has meant to your career beyond.
So I go in Wednesday evening, and the USJ wouldn't tell you who you're playing with till the last minute because they didn't want you playing practice rounds with the guys so you could be comfortable, you know. So I go in Wednesday evening. I'm hoping I'm playing with one of my cronies, you know, Greer Jones or Jerry Hurd or whatever. And I pulled the twosome is Arnold Palmer in Pittsburgh, where he was brought up, and I'm thinking,
I got no shot.
I'm thinking that is impossible to play with this guy, with his crowd. I mean, you have no idea how they would react to him, and so I'm thinking this is going to be tough, you know. And I did have a lady that said I was going to win every day after the 18th hole. Don't worry, you're going to win. I'm never wrong. And it's like, then I got the Arnold Palmer pairing. I'm thinking, oh, there's no way. And somehow we both shot the same score, 140. Which put us in like third place, and I'm thinking, well, I made it through Arnold Palmer. That was pretty good. And then Saturday, I forgot my yardage book, and in those days, you know, like the first hole, the yardage would be, you know, a soft 6-iron to the front right pin, LFB, left fairway bunker on my little card, and you would walk the yardage. So, and my caddy, Lud Bodine, said he had never caddied for anybody that ever broke 90 before.
So he's in great hands. He was also nipping at the Pepto-Bismol during the round, too.
So I knew I was in really big trouble, you know. No yardage card, toughest course in the United States, Oakmont Country Club. And somehow I had a terrible start. I was all psyched out, you know, thinking I was going to win. And it's 5 over par after 7 holes, and it was like, so much for that lady. She didn't show up after that round. And shot 76. And
this was just some lady that you didn't know who
no, I didn't know.
Heard her voice on the practice tee. She said, open up your stance. This was like mystical stuff.
Yeah. Well,
right?
That wasn't quite right, but I'll get to that. It was the next day. I was just going through the motions on the practice tee on Sunday and thinking, well, I'm not going to win. But I had, in my locker room, there was a letter from Iowa that says, you're going to win the U.S. Open. I was thinking, well, everybody's wrong about this. And so I was just about done practicing, and this clear voice said, open your stance way up. And it was like, why would I want to do that? I'm not going to win. And then it was again, it said it to me again, and I thought, well, I'll try the last 4 or 5 balls and try opening my stance from, this is square, opening it way up. It was like I opened up this much, and again it said, open it way up. And I tried that. Shortened my backswing a little, freed up my left side going through, and I'm walking to the first tee, and I'm thinking, I don't know about that open stance stuff. And but I thought, well, what the heck? I usually listen to little inspirations, and I just hit it perfect that day. Hit every green, and I think my average birdie putt 18 times was about maybe 8 or 9 feet, 18 times on average, and. Average iron shot was probably no more than 3 feet off line. So it was just one of those magical rounds. I did lip it out on 17 and went in the hole and came out on 18 and still shot 63. And, you know, when I came in, I just knew, even though Arnold Palmer was on the 11th hole, he's playing with John Schley, and Schley told me afterwards, he said, Arnie looked over at the leaderboard, which was right by the 12th tee, and he said, where the F did he come from, you know? So somehow I just knew that Arnie wasn't, and now he's 1 down after what I had shot, and that's a lot of pressure, and he wanted to win that so badly, to win at home for him. And not that I feel bad that he didn't win, but
no.
But that was a big turning point, because that was one of the 5 young lions. They were always talking about the young 5 rising stars, as Greer Jones, Lanny Watkins, Jerry Hurd, Jim Simons, and myself. And that sort of put me in a sort of, from a wannabe to sort of like it was a different mantle, and it really lengthened my stride and gave me confidence. And the next year I won 9 times. So that was the springboard for me, and the best round I'll ever play.
And eventually getting into the World Golf Hall of Fame, an incredible career, 25 PGA Tour wins. But I want to flash forward really quickly to the transition into the broadcast world.
Yeah.
Because the 91 Ryder Cup, you'd done maybe an event or two before that, just
Yeah.
kind of dabbling in the world of broadcasting. But the Ryder Cup at Kiowa was really at a charged atmosphere, and it was at that point where Johnny did it, and in the process of that, basically almost quit before a legendary broadcast career ensued, right?
Yeah, a little bit. You got that one right.
Thank you.
I'm just kidding. If you haven't guessed it already, we're like, I'm like the real older brother of his, and we love each other and really respect each other. And this guy is so good, I can't tell you. He never chokes. If you saw what went on in that booth, you wouldn't believe the stuff that he does. I mean, right in the middle of a sentence, I'll throw him this paper. He hadn't even seen it, and just grabs it, perfect timing, perfect cadence, and just flows right through it. And it's like, if they'd have done that to me, I'd say, take your stinking paper back, you know. But yeah, that was the most amazing TV broadcast I've ever seen. That wasn't quote unquote a major championship. I don't know if any of you guys remember that, but it was crazy the stuff that was going on with Sevy and Azinger and even Colin Montgomery and Calcavecchia. Calcavecchia was down on the beach throwing up, and I mean it just. And Azinger on Saturday it hadn't finished yet, of course, on Saturday, and the wind was blowing hard right to left, and the whole favored over the water. Favored this par three with a cut shot, which Azinger hit in his sleep, a little low cut, you know, and he hit a pull hook like 50 yards left of the green. I said, that was a terrible shot, and apparently I think the press liked to bait me, you know, and he came in and, hey, Johnny said you hit a terrible shot on 17. He said, oh, he's a moron. And so the title, I don't know anything about this, by the way. And the next day, the paper is about that high.
Headlines.
Azinger calls Miller a moron. And I woke up thinking things were going pretty good. I see that headline, and man, that was tough. And then of course, he does a retraction on Monday. Miller's not a moron, he's a Mormon. And so.
Slight difference. Just a little bit of a retraction.
But I sort of thought maybe that was a good time to maybe hang up the mic, you know. That was the second time I told him I was going to quit. I quit after the first day, by the way. First day, I was like, I am not an announcer. I never wanted to be an announcer. They talked me into being an announcer.
I'm a player.
I'm a player. I don't like this feeling. I'll see you later. And they talked me into there, and then they talked into me. They had to talk real hard after that one. But the best part that happened to me is when I had gone through Bryant Gumbel and Jim Lampley and Charlie Jones and Dick Enberg and even a little Bob Trumpy, and I had a lot of different anchors. And then Dan was working other holes and stuff, and they put me in with him, and man, that was a game changer for me. I hope you guys enjoyed those years 20 years with Johnny and Dan. I hope you guys like that.
I've had an opportunity to do a lot of different sports, work with a lot of different analysts, but I said it a long time ago, there'll never be a better, more special time than the 20 years I had with this guy in the booth. It was just an amazing experience. Our crew was incredible, but the heart and soul and the guy that drove it was this guy right here, because as he talked about, as his dad told him, you know, always say the truth. And that's the great thing about Johnny, is you always know where you stand. He just tells it like it is, and it's that way as a friend for life with me, and it's that way as a partner in the broadcast booth for all these years. Before we let you go, Johnny, I want to talk a little bit about the modern age of golf here.
Yeah.
We've got a little tournament called the Masters going on right now at Augusta National.
Yeah.
And we've got an incredible leaderboard. You've got Bryson DeChambeau and Brooks Koepka, who I think are tied for the lead at 6 under.
Yeah.
Then you got Phil Mickelson at 5 under, 1 back. And then you got Tiger Woods, who had a good round today at 2 under. So size up the leaderboard real quick, and you can either start or end with Tiger, who seems to be everybody's focus.
First of all, I got to say, the fans in Boston are the greatest fans. I didn't have a clue. Yeah.
That is true.
My son Andy is in the table here with my I'm not supposed to say that my favorite grandchild. I have 25 grandkids.
Rothko.
But Andy went to the Architectural School of Boston, and he played the tour too, but he was a valedictorian of that school, and so he's an amazing guy. But yeah, it's an amazing time. We were able to cover all of Tiger's career, and he had to come back at the Tour Championship. You guys like that, right? But I don't know if he can put 4 rounds together. He did it there, but in a major. But he loves that course, and he knows it backwards and forwards. But this Koepka, what's the odds if he wins another one? That'll be 4 majors and what he's won twice otherwise.
3 in the last 6. It could be 4 out of 7, which is an incredible run. Yet no one really talks about it.
I won 25 events, and I was lucky to get 2 majors. This guy is doing a thing that's easy to do, but that body on that guy is, man, that's a powerful guy, But DeChambeau is like the mad scientist. Drives me crazy, all the stuff he does before he hits it, because I was like really fast. Lanny Watkins and I were like the fastest players you ever saw. So it's hard for me as an announcer. I wanted to scream a lot of times watching these guys. I'd watch Spieth at 1 practice swing, 2 practice swings, 3 practice swings, 4 practice swings, 5 practice swings.
I look over at Johnny, he'd be going like this. Let's go. Come on.
That's good. But maybe it's the new modern era, but yeah, there's a lot of good players, but if you were going to guess right now, I really thought Molinari would be a factor. I don't even know what he shot.
Yeah, he's up there. He's under par, I think, right?
He's a sneaky guy. He's awfully consistent.
2 back? He's right there.
So he's going to be a guy to watch out, no doubt about it. But usually, historically, the year in 75, when I shot 75 the opening round, I was like 9 shots back after 2 rounds, and then I shot 13 under on the weekend, 65, 66. But there's very few big comebacks at the Masters, so the first round is like the key round in major championships, and especially at Augusta. So the winner is probably going to be somebody that shot 70 or lower. And so if you look on the paper today or tonight or on your phones, you'll probably see the winner be one of those. And so it would be great if Tiger stays in the hunt. I only saw Phil play 2 holes. One time he was in a bush, had to hit backwards on 10. And 11, he was out in the gallery, way in the trees, and the next thing I hear, he shot 5 under. So typical Phil, but yeah, it's fun to watch guys like that, But yeah, I don't know who's going to win. I quit predicting who was going to win, except for when Tiger was in his prime. Then it was pretty easy. So
yeah, but speaking of that, we were doing the 2000 U.S. Open when Tiger won by 15 shots, and Tiger I think is on the 13th tee, and it's my first U.S. Open with Johnny. Yeah. I am so nervous I can barely keep my head on. Yeah. And I look over at Johnny, and he starts talking about how I really got this feeling that Tiger's going to really do something special this week. And I mean really special. He's going to do something historical here, and I would not be surprised if he just kind of puts his foot on the gas and says, "See you later, guys." And I'm looking over at Johnny going, how can he be going down that road this early in the championship? This is crazy. But in the end, he was 12 under, and the next best score was +3. So that's the kind of broadcaster you got for 30 years at NBC.
Thank you.
And before we say goodbye, I just want to say thanks to a couple of other people. There's a lot of people that came here to be here for Johnny's night tonight. I just want to single one guy out in particular, 2 guys out, in fact, and that's Bob Ford, the former head professional at Oakmont, where Johnny shot his 63 and 73. I don't know where Bob is, but Bob was a very young assistant professional there at the time Johnny was there, and they've kind of been attached to the hip since then. And also, Johnny, I know not only Bob Ford means so much to you, but Bill Service, your longtime manager, is here tonight, and he had a big part in putting this whole night together.
Yeah, one last thing. One of the secrets of announcing is, or public speaking is doing your homework up here, but turning it over to your heart, so to speak. And especially if you're able to say what you really believe, number one, and say some things that you guys can be educated or learn something you didn't know about, and say things like a Charles Barkley that are totally unexpected. So if you want to be real interesting, then people don't go to sleep while you're speaking. If you just say exactly what you know they're going to say, which happens in golf broadcasting too, right? try to, to follow that thing. But the main thing is to really, that Tiger situation, I'd seen Tiger on 15 and 16 the day before, and my stomach or heart or whatever you want to call it, I just knew that he, not only was he at the very top of his career, but that he had hit that sweet spot. I mean, you could just feel the aura of the power of this guy. And that's when Roger Maltby, when Tiger hit it right on number 6, the par 5 up the cliff on the ocean, and he was in the rough, and he took out
7-iron.
7-iron from what,
200 up the hill.
200 out of rough about that long, and he knocked it on the green, and Roger said, "This is not a fair fight." but what a great career we had. We got to follow his amateur wins. I saw him in the National Junior 2 years, and then both his amateur wins, and then covered his whole career. And it doesn't get much better than that to cover even the ups and downs. Not that we wanted the downs, but it's nice to see him come back. And I was at a little thing, an award last night, where he spoke as Comeback Player of the Year, and he spoke for like 20 minutes and smiling and having a good time the whole time. It's big, nice transformation, and he's so important to the game of golf, and so it's nice to see. We love a guy that can turn things around, don't we, in America. So thanks for coming,
Absolutely.
By the way. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. I also, before we go, one shout out to Tom Reardon. It's a special night to have him here and have his award, and I know about all the love in the room for him. Thanks for having us.